This is Chimes Media. Well, this particular video is going to refer to a House of Lords comments or session where Tommy Robinson was referred to as some kind of extremist, but I'm going to play it and stop it and have little comments in between segments. So here we go.
Does my noble friend agree with me that all members of this House should be working to eradicate all forms of hate speech?
All forms of hate speech? Well, isn't that subjective? What is hate speech? It is dependent on who listens to the hate speech and determines it is. Well, these clowns, this is the House of Lords, right, are people who live in a bubble. They live completely detached from normal people. They don't live in council houses and things like that. They're not, having to put up with crime all the time. They have a gilded lifestyle, and these people. There's only one there. Apparently, there might be a second one somewhere. There's only one there, which is Lord Pearson, who has the courage to stand up for actually what is going on. These people are, privileged in themselves, and they're talking about controlling all forms of hate speech. That is shutting down freedom of speech. That is a direct opposition to freedom of speech. I wonder if they really do understand that, or even care for that matter.
And I note that the noble Lord Pearson is desperate to get into this question, and maybe if he does have the opportunity to do so, he could explain whether he thinks it's appropriate for members of this House to be hosting the likes of Tommy Robinson within the precincts of this House at a time when there is an increased risk in relation to hate crime.
The likes of Tommy Robinson, it doesn't matter. Tommy Robinson, me, you, anybody else. We are people under this government. We're entitled to have our voices heard. We're not to be sanctioned and cut out of dialogue. There's nothing that Tommy Robinson has said or done that is not truthful, really. He's saying things as they are, as they should be said. And these people, in their gilded little cages, in their sort of privileged lifestyle, do not want to hear it. Don't want to listen to what happens to ordinary people. They don't want to know about the rape gangs. They don't want to hear this because truth is hate. That's what it is. Truth is hate to them.
And members of the other House have been receiving hate letters.
Well, I couldn't agree more with my noble friend that this isn't just a governmental thing, it's not just societal, but as legislators for this country, we have got a strong leadership role to take, and it does dismay me when I see that certain quite extreme people are actually being invited into the Palace of Westminster.
Extreme people, somebody telling the truth or trying to tell the truth. Trying to represent those who are not being represented, trying to bring to light negligence on behalf of the police and the courts and the whole political class, who don't want to know about the girls who are having their tongues nailed to tables. This is what we're talking about. This is the problem. They want to control things, the legislature. They want to use all the power of the state. And that means that the UK is under a fascist regime. It's a fascist regime that goes in the guise of democracy. It's not a democracy. We are being treated like cattle. It's unacceptable that this kind of talk goes on in the House of Lords with people who have the privilege to be there and who want to turn their back on anyone who might come up with a different viewpoint than their own.
To propagate some of their hate.
Propagate some of their hate. Again, propagating hate is telling the truth. It's trying to bring to light an open and honest discussion about a very serious issue that is going on in our country. This is Lord Pearson.
If I could, my lords, I have been mentioned. My lords, if I could stick to the question. Does hate speech include criticising Islam or any of the world's great religions, as opposed to insulting their adherents? Does our legislation make that distinction? And if not, shouldn't it do so?
Well, it's a good question, isn't it? I mean, it's a shame that he is the only one who stands up. I mean, out of all that lot, none of them want to know. They're in complete denial. Now, I think I saw a video by Black Pigeon Speaks, in which he highlighted how Britain is under a state of anarcho-tyranny. Anarcho means they don't deal with the anarchic state of law and order. In other words, the prime causes of law and order problems and crimes that are going on. Instead, they go for the ordinary people, the quiet people who dared raise a voice. We are just sheep. We are just sheep. And the sheep are asking for help and protection. And instead of that, our leaders have become the wolves.
Well, there's a clear distinction between expressing one's own opinion, and that can offend people. There is a right to offend, but there is not a right to propagate speech which actually goes to a particular characteristic, whether that be race, religion, disability or sexuality, which actually promotes the hatred against that person.
Well, there we go. What is the difference then? You know, how do you know when you open your mouth to say something, truthful or otherwise, how do you know that you're not going to offend people in some way whatsoever? Jordan Peterson pointed out, you know, if you're with one person, you can tell more or less whether you're going to upset them or not. If there's 1,000 people and you offend one, have you broken the law? Is that what's happened? Because it's all feely-touchy stuff. It's all opinion. It's all subjective. The House of Lords, and with the House of Commons well, I suspect strongly as well, have joined the wolf pack. We are the sheep. They've joined the hunters. We are there to be fodder, to be put up with this rubbish. And why should we support them? You know, we're heading towards a cliff. We're heading towards things are going to come to pass. The media lie like flatfish, and the politicians do not want to know. They're not doing their job. What is the point of having such people? All they are is part of the machinery of oppression. It's time we had a voice. It's time the people had a voice. Every one of those party members, Labour or Conservative Liberals, they're all in the same team. They're just versions of the same oppression. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves.